Hey, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. I am Ron Luce. It is a rain delay currently, and we are starting this show live. If you are listening with us live, if you are not listening to this as a podcast, well, just so you know, we went live before the game ended. But before we get into it, we are here to recap the Tampa Bay Rays Cubs series. I am Ron Luce, joined by the one and only the Juice Man himself. Juice Man working with some quick technical difficulties here. So we'll just get right into it, ladies and gentlemen. In the game today, or not even to, well, today is not going very well. It's 8-2 currently in favor of the Tampa Bay Rays over the Cubs. It is in delay. It's in the sixth inning in said delay. So we are just waiting to see if that game gets called or not. But Monday, the Cubs won. That was beautiful. That was nice. And we'll get to that here in a second, 4-2. And then the Rays came back and held off the Cubbies last night with a little bit of a Heisman stiff arm in their comeback, just falling short at 6-5. I'll tell you what, I think my first thing, I guess, takeaway, for lack of a better term, that I think of here, this team doesn't have any quit. And that's so refreshing. It's so incredibly refreshing that the team doesn't quit. They don't back down from a challenge. I mean, look at today's game, for example. Yeah, they now are down 6 runs, but they were down 5 and they still kind of responded. They ended up coming back and making things interesting there. And at least they didn't get away. And Juice, now that you're back, buddy, just updated some stats from the series in terms of scoring here. And I was starting just with my first takeaway. So you're in perfect time, because I do want to get your thoughts on this. From the series, despite the Cubs ultimately going to lose 2 out of 3 here, the team feels like they don't quit. Like, there is no, we're down, 5 runs, we're just going to roll over and play dead. Yeah, Ross might dial it back a little bit in the lineup and put different guys in and maybe not pitch your top pitchers and whatever, get guys that just need to get work. But the team still finds a way to somehow keep it somewhat interesting. And I want to hear your thoughts on that too. That's so far my biggest takeaway. In this series, this team doesn't quit. They don't just back down. They really try to truly win every game, even if it's not going their way.
Yeah, I think if you really truly want to, look at the whole season as a whole, you can compare both this series and the whole season all in one. I think that let's just kind of rewind back to the past couple years. And we went into every year expecting World Series or bust. They had a decent rotation. They were able to, sign guys to add to the bullpen. And then you got into the postseason, and it seemed to be kind of that same death, right? It was, let's get excited. We'll get excited. They get to the postseason, they don't hit. And I think if you're a Cub fan this year, you almost need to look at what's happened throughout this season and just go, at least the Cubs may not be the most talented team in the MLB right now, let alone their division, let alone the NLC or the NL in general. But you know what? They're going to go out there, they're going to fight, and they're going to lose, go down in a different way than we're used to for the last 3-4 years. And I think that is awesome as a fan to sit back there, because to me, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. And that's what the Cubs kind of were after 2016. It was, hey, we're going to roll this same lineup out and pray to God that when they got to the playoffs, they were going to hit, and they were going to try to outslug some guys. And as their pitching kind of aged, their starters like Lester and Lackey, at the end of his career too, it was almost like they needed the offense to carry them. And when I look at this team, I almost think how refreshing it is to just have a different outcome. You look at this team, and they're not going to strike out a lot. It seems like it. They're going to put the bat on the ball. They're going to move, the runners around. They're going to play small ball. Let's just dive into what we've seen over the first 12 games. They're hitting 266 as a team, and they're third in batting average. And OPS, I believe they're third as well. So how you don't have the mainstays like a Chris Bryant or an Anthony Rizzo or a Javi Baez in this lineup, guys who show power. They're getting it done. It's all about changing the course, and I think that Jed, in a short time, has kind of done that, right? Like he's gotten rid of guys who strike out a lot, who don't put the bat on the ball, and he's brought in guys who are able to not strike out, to put in tough at bats, to take their walks, and to be selective. And if you're a Cub fan, like, grasp onto it, because I think it's so refreshing to just not lose the way that we've lost over and over and over again. You know what I'm saying? Like, it got kind of frustrating to watch Cubs games because it was almost like two true outcomes, kind of like baseball, right? Like, it was either home run type of offense or they were maybe on the verge of getting no hit some days, So I think that, like, if you're a Cub fan, you got to be happy with the start just because it's different, embrace the different kind of, makeup to this team. And I'm excited. I know that it just kind of came across the front. They finally called the game, so they are officially lost 2 out of 3.
Yep.
And you're probably trying to jump into that. But
yep.
But with that said, man, like, they fight. And I think it's interesting to kind of see, we talked about last year how the pitching was a case study, right? Because they didn't have like a lot of strikeout guys, and they had a lot of guys who were going to pitch to contact. This year is almost like the flip. It's the offensive case study of we're not going to round our lineup up with guys who hit 30, 40 bombs, who have the potential to do that. We're gonna round it out with guys who, pretty much single you to death. And the Cubs may win a lot of games by doing that.
Yeah, and singling guys to death is exactly right. It's not a bad thing. Like, it's okay to play station to station baseball as long as it's working, as long as you're getting results. And so far, even in losses, this team is getting those results. And we saw it in this series, right? Like, they still scored 5 runs yesterday. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like they totally just rolled over and put up a dud or put up 1. You know what I mean? And then in their win on Monday, they scored 4. Like, this team is routinely scoring 4 and 5 runs a game, even when they're losing. Like, and everybody knows the pitching is going to come along because A, shortened spring training, and B, they're still figuring out a lot of the bullpen, like you said, Juice. So, like, this team is still doing good things. Like, there's still a lot to be encouraged by here, because I was talking with my dad the other day, and, like, this is honestly how I feel this team is building. And I need to put my thoughts to paper, and I need people that are listening to this podcast to hold me accountable in doing so. The Cubs are building in the models of the Los Angeles Dodgers now. Now we're really going into that territory, because here's the thing. They're operating like a Moneyball team, right? They're finding Frank Schwindel and Patrick Wisdom, and, again, guys that you watch the movie Moneyball and you sit there and go, yeah, this feels eerily similar. Like, the Cubs are doing that, but when you put money behind the Moneyball theory, you become the Los Angeles Dodgers. Like, that's what they built on. They brought in Friedman from Tampa. Tampa and Oakland are the 2 best Moneyball teams in the MLB right now, and it's not even close. A lot of teams try to do it, I think. I think Cleveland is a good example of that, hence why Hawkins was brought in, I think, by the Cubs. Like, there's a lot of teams that do that style. They're now going to have the resources ideally behind it, right? Because you have Wrigleyville the way it's operating and churning. You have Marquee. And if these things truly develop like the business plans believe they should, it might just take longer. And a lot of that is probably COVID related. But, like, all of a sudden now you're looking at maybe this does become the model that is, the Los Angeles Dodgers. And they might have to steal some guys on, cheaper contracts. Like, I argue right now, Seiya Suzuki is a steal. Like, I mean, 3 walks yesterday. Are you kidding me? He literally worked back from a bad first strike call and an 0-2 count to take a walk on like 9 pitches. It was the most wild at bat I've seen. Like, I haven't gotten that excited over an at bat that ended in a walk in a very long time. The last time I felt that level of excitement was like the Anthony Rizzo, like, 15 pitch at bat. That was the last one that I'm like truly getting that, like, oh my God, what an at bat. You know what I mean? That's exciting. Like, they have a guy that has the potential to truly be a superstar. And we've seen it in a small sample size, but, like, maybe, who knows? So there's so much fun to watch right now too. Like, this is their first technical series loss of the season. They split 2 and they won 1. Like, For a team that wasn't supposed to be very good, that's not a bad start, especially if you figure in the chance. And I know I'm getting real off topic here. I'll reel this back in just a second. But like, you and I were just briefly talking that the Cubs have like a Brennan Davis updater on the website. Like, he's coming soon. He's going to make an impact of some level on this team this year. It might not be, trade deadline-esque, but like, he's still going to be another valuable piece. Like, this Cubs team gives me a lot of like 2014 vibes, but they're further along. It's this weird hybrid case between 2014 and like 2015 is where this Cubs team is to me. And they're coming, and there's going to be a lot to be excited about. P. Crow Armstrong is hitting the face off the baseball the last couple of days in Myrtle Beach. He had an inside the park home run, and then he had a triple tonight. And the kid flies. I mean, he flies like loses his helmet, turning second, loses, like, flies.
I'm a big fan of that.
I love that too. And like, P. Crow Armstrong is realistically the center fielder of the future. Like, at some point, if all goes well, Brendan Davis is probably your everyday left fielder. Like, if we're being totally honest here, because Sayas got right locked down for the foreseeable future, and Pete Crow Armstrong is like a natural born center fielder. Probably the first one that the Cubs have had. I'm talking before Dex here. Like, it's been a long time. The Cubs have had a lot of these center fielders that are supposed to be game changers. Like, I think Pete Crow Armstrong's never going to hit for a ton of power, but son of a bitch, you better believe he's going to smack 15 triples a year, and like, maybe he's probably like the closest thing to like Carl Crawford was. Could you imagine that as a center fielder? Like a Gold Glove center fielder that hits like Crawford? Huh. Oh, sign me up, Juice. Like, I know I'm getting really far off topic here, but it kind of rounds my point out in the sense of like, there is still stuff to get excited about here. It's early. Don't panic. They're now finally 500, so they're 6-6.
6-6.
It's 12 games, folks. They play 162. I'm going to do the quick math here, Juice. Like, 12 games out of 162. They've only played 7% of the season. Let's chill the hell out. You know how much the NFL season is 7%? Like 2 games. Like, for purpose, maybe not even a full 2 games for perspective here. Like, let's all breathe. Yes, they lost. This Rays team is supposed to be good, folks. Like, it's not like they rolled over and died to the Cincinnati Reds. The Tampa Bay Rays are supposed to potentially be like in the hunt for the AL East, which I think is the best division in baseball right now. Let's just breathe. This is very interesting. Joey Ricotta. First off, hold on before we bring up the news. I know everybody saw it already. Sup, boys? Sorry couldn't make it on. It's okay, buddy. We miss you. We love you, and we'll talk to you very soon here. But Cubs just tweeted that they traded Jesse Chavez and cash to the Braves for Sean Newcomb. They got a lefty. This is exciting all of a sudden, Juice. We're going to have to pivot a slight bit on the conversation here. Sean Newcomb strikes me as a guy that, like, he's probably going to have a meaningful, like, role on this bullpen early because they don't have another lefty outside of Daniel Norris, and Daniel Norris has not been what they wanted it to be. Hell, if the Braves are willing to just dump him for cash and Chavez, that feels like a no-brainer for the Cubs because that's a guy that's got potential to be at least good. He doesn't have to be great, but as long as he's solid, that's all the Cubs need right now. And he's a guy that I think can give you a little bit of distance too. I think Newcomb was a starter within the last maybe 3 or 4 years. So he's probably still a guy that can give you more than one inning if you need him to, too, Juice.
Yeah, I think we kind of talked on this in the last couple Cubs on Taps about the lack of depth as left-handers out of the bullpen. And I brought up a decent point about before the season had even started about Justin Steele and kind of being that Josh Hader out of from the left side option. We talked about it in the pre-show, but now that they've got Keegan Thompson doing what Keegan's doing, it's almost like Josh Hader becomes Keegan Thompson becomes the Josh Hader version for the Cubs, just the right-handed version because he can go 3. And, for example, kind of shows you, the same kind of performance that he had. If he's able to keep doing that he had from the other night, you're not really having to worry about having that long guy in the bullpen anymore. So now you bring in a lefty that could potentially go longer than 1 inning too, and you get some more flexibility for a guy that really in Chavez, like I was really rooting for him to kind of catch on. because I like Chavez's story. Him being a guy who worked on the docks over in LA before he even like got the call up to play baseball. He's got a great backstory. It's the kind of guy you root for. But no, yeah, great move for the Cubs. I think time will tell too, right? I mean, they've got so many different other options that they can go nuclear with. If they feel like they want to go with Braylon Marquez later in the season, they can do that. But it's just another lefty to throw into that pen, and I feel like what we've seen out of the bullpen, it's better that Jed and company are not sitting on their hands, because minus a few great performances, it's been shaky. There's been some times where you're wondering what you're getting out of it, and maybe Newcomb could be somebody who's in the mix. And another arm doesn't hurt. Absolutely not. So yeah, good move, and I think with the right-handed dominant bullpen that they do have, he really didn't need Chavez. He kind of was a guy that was expendable. So why not just get another lefty?
Absolutely. I totally agree with you there, Juice. Like, it's a need. You're literally addressing a need in this trade. They needed a left-handed bullpen arm. Like, that was probably the one major thing this team was missing from, again, at least being interesting given what they can bring up throughout the year and maybe what they can do later in the season. Maybe they don't go crazy at the trade deadline, but maybe they, Andrew Chafin level move at the deadline. They've done that before, and it's worked out in their favor. So, I'd be really intrigued to see what happens now with this move. Because like you said, Chavez was expendable. Call a spade here. He was expendable because he was able to, they have so many righties. First off, he hasn't really been that consistent so far out of the pen, and he's not something that they need right now necessarily. Newcomb is the complete opposite of that. They need a lefty. They need a guy that's got some stuff. And maybe this is a guy too that they identified as, again, like a pitch lab candidate that can come in and maybe transform something. And Joey, jumping back in the comments again, love his breaking ball, and lefty is huge. Yeah, absolutely. And he's got a good breaking ball. Like, this is a Cubs team that thrives on teaching guys like better spin rates and all this shit. Again, they act like a money ball team with money. And it's incredible. It's exciting. Like, how many times have they done it with pitchers since the Jed and Theo experiment have been here, and even more recently? Right? They said Killian got better because he worked on spin rates and grips, and he took it to heart and did what the Cubs said. And now they're like, kid, you're going to be stupid good at some point. So, like,
knocking on the door already, if you really wanted
he's
to.
already in AAA. Like, he's been fast tracked to the big leagues potentially. We might see him this year. We might see him in 2022. So, but again, going back to Newcomb, a guy that if he's got stuff, they can absolutely use in the pen, work with him more, and again, maybe he becomes a critical bullpen arm, or maybe he becomes another candidate that, depending on what happens, they can flip at the deadline. You know what I mean? Like, you have options here, and I think that's super exciting. But there will be an article out on that here from OnTap Sportsnet. You heard from Juice and I on the topic, but Sean Newcomb, now a Cub, Jesse Chavez on his way to Atlanta with some cash as a part of the transaction here. They pulled the trigger pretty much once the game went final. So I'm sure Jed during the rain delay was calling up, or maybe this was already in the works, and they're like, hey, it's okay. Our game's going to be ended here real soon. Let's just make the trade happen right now. And that seems like what they did. But Juice, going back to the Rays series here, like, again, we're excited about the no quit. We're excited about this team still putting up offense. Steele had a rough outing, but still looked decent at times. I think Stroh had a very similar outing. They probably both finally had their worst outings in a Cubs jersey. And then Hendricks looks like he kind of rebounded, which was encouraging. He kind of got his nasty start out of his system in Pittsburgh. Like, again, taking into account, and I got to give our boy Baseball Booze, Jake Bujanowski, credit here because he tweeted this earlier. He said, along the lines, not verbatim, but, it was a 3-week spring training. It's normally 6. So if you count the first 3 weeks of the season being this, extended spring training for a lot of these pitchers, take these as spring training starts. I would be encouraged if all of these were spring training starts and they're actually winning games. They're 500 people. It literally, Scott from Iowa, great friend of the program here, literally keeps saying it. He's like, if this team wins 10, 12, God forbid, 14 games in this month, people are going to be talking like, holy crap, this team can do something. Like, this team could be interesting, at least, especially with the expanded playoffs and, especially with ammunition that's probably coming down the line in the form of some of these prospects that'll be ready. So it's super exciting, Juice. I'm not taking this series loss too hard. It's early. It was to a good team in the Rays. Like, let's breathe and let's keep moving forward and take out the encouraging things that have happened so far throughout the series.
Yeah, I think the encouraging thing, if you're a Cub fan, was 2 out of 3 was definitely in the cards. They could have easily won yesterday. So many chances, so many things that could have broke their way. But hey, sometimes I like to look at series and I like to go back to series before and go, all right, I lost this series, but if I would have just swept, and I keep going back to that one game that Kyle Hendricks had a rough one against the Pirates earlier on in the season. It's like, you get a chance to beat up on these bad teams, beat them, because now steal that win, make it a 4-game series, and they split. You know what I'm saying? Like, instead of having to split against a bad team like the Pirates, it would have been nice for them to take that game, and then you can lose one of these against a good team. And that kind of picks it up into what's going on to the next series. The Cubs play the Pirates in a 4-game set. Take all 4. And I know that it's baseball and anything can happen, but like I keep saying, if the Cubs are going to want to be in the thick of it, they're going to have to really beat the hell out of these Pirates, the Reds, and you're trying to get, I thought, didn't you say 12 wins for the 12 to 14 for this month? If they can do that, if they could take the 4 here, you're looking at 10. And then you have a series against the Braves, who aren't playing the best of baseball right now. 6-8, kind of average, still beatable. And maybe you take 2 out of 3 there. And at the end of the month, going into May, you have a 3-game set against the Brewers, who you've already taken 2 out of 3. And you could absolutely, in the cards, they're not playing the best ball either. Their 3 starters seem to be, slow out the gate. So it looks like a month that, at the end of it here, take 4 against the Pirates. Maybe you drop a series against the Brewers or the Braves, but you're right there. As long as you're not getting swept, and 2 out of 3 is 2 out of 3 when you're beating these teams like the Brewers or the Braves, you're gonna be right there. That's just the fact of it is you need to stack some wins now, and going into May, it's not easy either. I know they have a set against the White Sox and the Dodgers back to back. So if you're looking at the future,
Yeah, we are looking at the future, Juice, and there he is. He's back now. Sorry, buddy. I just wanted to keep things moving here. But like you said, yeah, if this is the future, we got to feel good about that, right? I want you to finish your thought, but
No, I'm just saying, you got to stack these wins coming up against the Pirates, because
agreed.
You're going to get some tough competition in the next couple series. But keep hitting the ball like they're doing, and maybe you get some better starting pitching. I think the only stat that I've kind of looked at recently that kind of jumps out to me is Cubs pitchers opponent batting average. It's 251. So not the thing that we want to see. 250 is too high. Start bringing it down. Get down into the 230s, 220s. You're really kind of looking at a team that will be in the mix. So starting pitching needs to go a little deeper. You need some better performances. But like you said, they're going to get every opportunity to stretch themselves out in April here. And I think most Cubs fans should evaluate what the starters do in May rather than what they do in April here, because, like you said, spring training is just it was too short, and this seems to be an extension of it.
That it does, Juice. And yeah, I completely agree with you, right? Like, again, if we're still having the same narrative with the starting pitching come Memorial Day, then we can, I think, be concerned, truthfully. Like, I think we can sit here and go, okay, maybe things aren't looking as great. Or we can sit here and go, okay, things are at least fine. And I think that's going to be more the case, right? Like, things are going to be good. Like, yes, their guys are going to have tough starts. It happens. It happens all the time. But as long as they can be fairly consistent, the offense can remain somewhat consistent. If they just continue to do the things they've been doing, this team's going to be fine. Things are going to go well, and they'll get things figured out. So I'm right there with you, Juice. I think that's going to be all fine and dandy. But, buddy, I do want to turn it back over to you one more time for this Tampa series. Any final thoughts on the series to kind of close our thoughts out before we look ahead to that 4-game set against the Pittsburgh Buccos?
Turn the page. Good to see Patrick Wisdom carry it back into the series, and Frank Swindell as well. Those are two big ones that we kind of talked about going into the series, and even prior to that, with the Rockies series too, that were struggling. Hopefully, they got themselves straight in Colorado, and they just keep that going, because this lineup looks so much better when you have those power guys who are, kind of clearing the bases and things like that. So, yeah, no, I think 2 out of 3, but nothing to hit the panic button about.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you there, sir. Yeah, my final thoughts is just take the good things that happen in the series and remember those, because as long as we continue to see those things, good things are going to happen. Like, this team's going to figure it out at some point. These guys are going to level set. Like, they're playing really well defensively. Defensively, they've had one of the best starts in like some crazy odd number of years. It was like 1906 was the last time the Cubs went like 10 games with only 1 error. Like,
it's a good stat.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Crazy statistic, but like, that's encouraging. This team's working hard defensively. They talked about it. Pat Hughes brought it up on the radio yesterday, and this is because I had to listen to the game for a little bit because I don't have a TV in my bedroom right now. So, like, I was listening to it on the radio, and Pat Hughes even brought it up. He says, this infield comes in early, off days will come in, like, and they put in work defensively with Andy Green. Like, Andy Green is making a big difference in this coaching staff, I think, with David Ross. They're working really hard defensively, and that's so important because remember that when the Cubs won the World Series, they were one of the best defensive teams in baseball. And if the Cubs can build on that formula again of being a good defensive baseball team, obviously this team looks way different than the 2016 team does. But like, if they play really well defensively, they're going to shock some people. They're going to beat some people, and that's going to scare people. And that's a good building block in this season to hopefully what's going to be a very promising future here in 23, 24 and beyond. So that's kind of just my thoughts, is take the good away, because that's what they're building toward, right? In this new wave of Cubs baseball. The bad things will sort itself out. These guys are professionals, and like you said, short in spring training, they'll come back. But Juice, as we do look ahead, the Buccos come to town for 4 games with the Cubs. That's starting tomorrow night, 6:40 Central Daylight Time start. It's the only night game of the series, however, and as it should be, because Friday, Saturday, Sunday, a beautiful 1:20 p.m. start. And fun fact, if you're going out Saturday, which will be the nicest day of the weekend, Juice, supposed to be about 80 and sunny. It's really going to feel like a little glimpse of summertime in Chicago. I'll be on a golf course, so I will not be at Wrigley. But if other people are at Wrigley, I hope they enjoy themselves, because there's also the 1984 replica jersey giveaway, which is the away jersey, the really cool blue pullovers.
That's a good day to go.
Yeah, it's a good day to go. That's a cool jersey for anybody that hasn't seen them. I think if they wore that jersey for like 1 game a year, I would be absolutely just over the moon about it, because I have 2 custom jerseys in that jersey. I have a Baez and I have a Castellanos in that jersey, and they're both absolutely gorgeous, and I still wear them to this day. I saw somebody had a Stroman one too, and I nearly did it. I was like, oh, that's so pretty. I nearly did it, but I might wait a little bit on that one. But nonetheless, Juice, turning it over to you to start things off here. It sounds like Leiter Jr. is getting another start. I think that's incredibly worth noting in tomorrow's game. Thank God it's against Pittsburgh. But I want to get your thoughts here. Preview the series in your eyes, Juice. What do you got for us in this 4-game set?
Yeah, I think it's a real blessing that this game was called early tonight, considering the fact that we don't know really what we're getting out of Leiter Jr. tomorrow. I'll say this: beat the bad teams, right? We talked about it. You got to come out, and you got to. This is the other thing too: the Cubs aren't good enough or talented enough to not be ready to play each and every night. So, to me, the main key points for this series is get a lead early and then pitch well, right?
Yep.
And I don't care if it's Leiter for 4 innings and then you go to Keegan for 3 and then you piece it together at the back end of the bullpen tomorrow. But hey, get some wins because these are the ones that are primed for the taking. Makes up for the fact that you lost this series. If you're able to take, 3 or 4 or sweep them all, would be even better. But I think these are the ones I watch almost as close as I watch the exciting, primetime matchups, because these seem to be the games that, if you don't make the playoffs, you look up at the end of the year and you go, man, I wish I would have played the Pirates better. I wish I would have played the Rays better, because those 2-3 games end up being the difference in all of it. And come out and get a couple wins. And I think that they should, handle business in a lot of ways. Tomorrow's the only one you really got to worry about. Yeah. And after that, home at Wrigley, it'll be nice out there. Hopefully the ball's jumping a little bit. We can start to drive the ball out of the ballpark with a little bit more consistently.
And
I think it's hard too, because, you've gotten a lot of cold nights, and it'll be a night or a couple days, a night and a couple days where the hitters are excited to get in the batter's box for once. So, hit the ball around the ballpark. I'm watching for the Cubs to have better starting performances from their starters, because with this lineup, there's no excuse not to attack, and go deep into a ball game. And I believe other than Leiter, it'll be the third time through. Correct on that for a lot of these guys, third or fourth time through. So,
it'll be third time through still for Drew Smyly. It'll be fourth time then when they restart with Hendricks.
Yeah. So, realistically, if we're talking about a spring training, extended for spring training, these 3 to 4 extra starts, that's it. Now you're on the clock. Figure it out, right? Mm-hmm. So let's hope that we get some good starting pitching, and they win 3 or 4 or sweep them all. Would be even better.
Yeah, and don't be surprised if we see at least one doubleheader this weekend, because tomorrow's going to be beautiful. It's going to be like high 60s and sunny. So if you could get out to the ballpark on a Thursday evening, it should still probably be pretty nice. It'll probably be a little cooler, maybe upper 50s, lower 60s, but that's still a beautiful night to be at the ballpark in April. There's a pretty heavy chance of rain on Friday. It'll still be in the 60s, though, so maybe they can still get the game in. Who knows? But yeah, Saturday being the best day. If you're in the city, it's supposed to be closer to 75 with a little bit of wind. It'll be a little windy day here in the Midwest. No surprise there. But out in the burbs where I am, 80 degrees, baby, and I'll be on the golf course. So hopefully those winds help me, because they'll be at my back when I take a nice drive. And I hope
hit them straight, Ron. Hit them straight.
That's the problem, Juice, is I hit 1 out of every 7 straight. So we'll see how well we do tomorrow. But then Sunday, another chance of rain. Still supposed to be nice though. High 60s temperature wise. And then the Cubs get the hell out of town right before it cools off again back into the 50s and 40s. So good on the Cubbies to get out of here. They'll play in a dome, and they'll play in warmer weather in Atlanta. I guess it's been in the 80s in Atlanta. I have a cousin down there.
Nice.
Or cousins, I should say, down there. They said it's been gorgeous. Like, my cousin's golfed 4 times already, and I'm so jealous. But yeah, so again, though, this is the nice weather coming up. You're in a dome. Maybe this is the time now for, like you said, that ball to really start to bounce around, and maybe the offense to stay alive and really keep things interesting. I want to see a right field corner triple from somebody.
Love the triples. You know how the triples get me going.
Especially at Wrigley, get me going, because that ballpark is so small and triples are so rare. It's feed me a triple, dude. Because there's some ballparks though where I'm expecting San Francisco to be triples alley this year because of that deep, right center. That would be incredible to see, just triple after triple after triple. I'm here for the aggressive baseball. Aggressive baseball is cool and tough, Juice. So I'm right there with you, man. I have nothing else really too much to add. Just pitching, start to figure it out. Offense, come alive. It's the Pirates. You should take advantage of these games. And if you can't, that's going to really bite you in the ass at the end of the year. So I agree with everything you had to say, Juice. Well put, my friend. I do want to remind everybody, Juice, before we get out of here, that Cubs on Tap is the official Cubs podcast of the On Tap Sports Network. You can check out all of our great work over at www.ontapsportsnet.com and at OnTapSportsNet on social media. You can follow the pod specific account. We are at Cubbies at CUBBIES on Tap. That's Twitter and Instagram. You can follow me. I am at Luce on Tap. Juice is at Juice on Tap. Follow all of our other great contributors at Joey Knows Nothing, as well as at Joe on Tap, and everybody else that does writing for us here on the Cubs side of the house. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, and yes, Cubs fans, we all have friends that like the Southsiders. Make sure you send them over to us too. Our Sox on Tap crew does a great job covering those boys at the G spot on the South Side. Also, bets, we got that. Golf, we got that too. Chicago Women's Sports, Chicago Fire, you name it, we've got it. Be sure to come and check it all out at ontapsportsnet.com and at ontapsportsnet on social media. The On Tap Sports Network. Go ahead and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. And Juice, before we truly say our final words before we get out of here, I need a Fly the W series pick from you for the Pirates series.
I'm going to take Nico Horner. I like his at-bats at Wrigley to start the year, and it's the Pirates, so I hope he's at the bottom of that lineup causing some havoc. I was going back and forth between him and Nick Madrigal. I'm going to stick with Nico Horner.
I like that. I like that a lot, honestly, to be honest with you, man. That's a good pick. I think, Nico needs to come alive. That's a guy that really needs to do something come alive here. I'm going to go Frankie Schwindel. He's on a 9-game hitting streak, right? Like, if there is one thing that will keep the man at the major league level, he might not be the greatest defensive first baseman. He might not give you a ton of home runs. He's probably going to drive in a lot of runs if you put him in those run-producing spots. That dude just hits, and I love it. It's refreshing. The dude just fucking hits. He gets the bat on the ball. He's Frankie Two Bags. Like, that's what he's starting to feel like. He's Frankie
Two Bags. All right.
Two Bags. Like, that is what he does, right?
Start the shirt. Let's get the shirt out there. Frankie Two Bag shirts.
Singles and doubles, baby. That's all he does. But he drives and runs. He's productive, and that's all they need out of him. That is the beauty of it. Like, if baseball is going to start to evolutionize to where contact is meaningful again, and I think it's going that way, power still has its place. Don't get me twisted. But, like, the contact hitter is going to come alive at least a little bit again. It's not just going to be all these sluggers that every team possesses that strike out at a 25 to 30% clip. It's going to be fun. And truthfully, I think Frankie Schwindel is going to have a decent career. It might not be very long just given his age, but a decent career, maybe 7-8 years of just, if that dude continues to hit, he's going to be in the major league. Somebody's going to have him on their team because why do we like him? He gets on base. And sure, he does it via the hit more than just the walk. We like Seiya just because Seiya gets on base at a stupid clip. Seiya might be on base half the time this season. It's really starting to feel that way. But Frankie Schwindel, we like him because he gets on base. And that is my pick. Ricotta has no idea who's pitching for the Pirates, but he says give him Patty Wise because, like you said, Patty Wise did can carry it forward. So I think it's a good pick. We'll get Joe Maris's pick as well. And when we tweet those out tomorrow ahead of Game 1, be sure to respond in the replies with your Fly the W pick, and we'll somehow get to a way where maybe late in the season, over the course of the season, somebody wins all of them, and I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out some way. Somebody's going to win something, maybe. So follow along with this. I know we've tried this in years past. Picking on a series basis, it'll be a lot easier to track. So we'll try and give it a go finally, and let's see if somebody can pick the most Fly the W guys for the course of a season. So, Juice, always a pleasure, my friend. Cubs lose 2 of 3 to the Rays, but 4-game set with the Pirates at home this weekend. It feels like a perfect opportunity to win the series at minimum, if not getting a 4-game sweep. What do you say we get out of here? The only way we know how to. Here it comes on tap.
Investigate Albert Pujols.
Yes, investigate Albert Pujols, and let's go Cubbies.